Today I'm going to show you how to render depth of field inside of Nuke using a Z-depth channel inside a multi-layer EXR using Octane and Cinema 4D. So basically what this is going to allow you to do is change your depth of field after the render is already done, so you won't be baking your focus into the image. So you can change your focus onto different objects, and you can change how much it's actually blurring the background. At that point you can start introducing bokeh into the background if you want, or since you can individually control the focus, you can manipulate the blur to however you want. So basically within this scene I set up, just as for the tutorial's sake, I have a HDRI in here, and then I have spheres inside of a cloner with basic Octane glossy materials, just a darker version of them, and I have these spheres scattered heavily along the Z-axis. So if we go into our camera here, we can go to thin lens settings, and we can take off autofocus, and this is how Octane uses focus. So you change the focal depth, it'll focus on whatever object is, say if I do an object 200 centimeters away, it'll focus on whatever is 200 centimeters away, which in this case there is nothing. But you can pick the focus in the viewport as well, and it'll automatically find that object and focus on it. But if we don't want to do that, I'm going to show you how to do the Z-depth pass. So basically what that's going to look like is this. It just looks like an alpha channel with an Octane, but when we throw that into Nuke, you're going to see the colors actually start to separate once you pull the gamma down. So basically you're going to want to go into your render settings and say your render to Octane render, obviously. You're going to want to go into the render pass settings, and you're going to want to enable them. So the format should be EXR, should be 32 bits per channel, and it should be zip compression, not RLE. I'm gonna click Save Beauty for this tutorial, but whatever projects you guys are working on, I would encourage you to start using a lot of these beauty passes and use the same techniques I'm gonna use in Nuke to composite them together. It will just give you greater control over your image, and you can, rather than dealing with lots of re-renders, you can start controlling your passes individually. So where the Z depth is going to be, it's going to be in info passes here, and if you click Z depth, you will see it in the bottom left. The noise is just an adaptive sampling filter. I don't have the newest version of Octane, but yeah, so you see it looks like basically an alpha channel. So that's all it is inside of Octane, really. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this file. Let's say test, and we're going to go ahead and render this, and I will get back to you guys when this renderer is done. So I'm going to create a new, just name it tutorial. Actually that was not right. Tutorial in 2400 by 2400. Obviously set this to whatever size you need, whatever works for your situation. But so if you can see, if we put our viewer to this EXR, it's just a black image, right? And that may concern people initially, but if you go into the top left, you see all your channels right here. So you have your alpha, your RGB, and your RGB alpha. But you can see in this image, it actually grabbed the beauty pass and the Z-depth pass, which are the two passes we rendered. So if we check out the Z-depth pass, it looks like this alpha channel sort of thing again. But if we actually pull down our gamma, we can see the values start to separate the lower we go. And that's what we were looking for. So let me reset my viewer real quick. Basically, you wouldn't need to do it for yours, but I'm just pulling a shuffle channel in and shuffling the beauty pass, so I see that in my final image instead of just the defocus Z depth. So the only node you're gonna need is the Z defocus node. I forget, it used to be called something else in the earlier versions of Nuke, but what this node basically does is it can pull a depth channel out of any channel you select, and you can start setting up your focus after your render is done. So if we go inside here, you see the focal point is this little dot that we can drag around. So I'm just going to set that focal point around here. Within the depth channel, this is the default one. I believe this is the pass that Maya renders, but Octane has their own ones, and it's the Z underscore depth, and you can check that just to make sure, because it says that right here. But you can see it has the red, green, blue, and alpha. We don't need all these, just any one of them will work. So if we go into math, I would set the math to depth. It's just the most straightforward way to do it. And then you're going to want to look at the focal plane setup. So basically what this is going to do is it's a plane showing you where your focus is. So blue is totally out of focus, I believe, and then red is going to be in focus. So if we set our focal plane to 20, see 21, 30, yeah, so maybe if we do like 25. Yeah, so we have these two spheres in focus now, and we can start dragging our depth of field up, and then you will get green will be in focus as well. So if we do 20, maybe 19. Yeah, so now we only have these two spheres in focus. So at this point, we can start dragging our size of our blur. I'm going to do maybe 30 and 50. Again, this is just for tutorial's sake. I don't think you'd ever blur anything this much, but this is going to be so you guys can see the actual final result. And we'll let Nuke chug it out. So yeah, you can see how the background is much more blurred, and these spheres are much more blurred. If we disable that and enable that, these spheres are actually blurred. You can see some errors. It seems to be pulling the specular a bit here. So that's why if you rendered the separate layers, so if you rendered this specular in a separate channel within the EXR, you could comp that back in over this, so it'd fix this this pulling around here. But that's a whole nother thing to do. So yeah, that's basically it, and that's how you render Z depth within Octane and throw it into Nuke to Final Composite. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments for future tutorials.